I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone, and thank you all for coming. At this point on the agenda, it is citizens' comments. If there are any citizens who have anything to say about anything that's not on the agenda, this would be the time to speak. If there are any citizens who wish to speak about the budget, there is a sign-up sheet on the back table so that you can add your name to it. Now, any additions or adjustments to the agenda by the board or the superintendent?
I have none.
Anyone else? I would just like to call your attention to some policies that are in your folder. It's always, I have to keep going over and over the policies myself just to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. The first one in your packet is the board member code of ethics. It goes right along with the Appendix L in our handy-dandy book from Drummond and Woodsum, 10 ways that superintendents and school boards can undermine each other. And so it's always a good idea to remember what it is that we need to be doing. I'd like to call your attention to F and avoid acting on my own on citizens' complaints and concerns, but will refer them to the superintendent to ensure that existing policies will be followed. The second one is the board and superintendent relationship, and just remember that the superintendent runs the schools, and we hold her responsible for acceptable results, but she's the one in charge. And also E, again, says to refer complaints, criticisms, and requests to the superintendent or other appropriate personnel. My mantra for this year, I said earlier in the year, was have you talked to the superintendent, have you talked to the principal about anything that comes to your attention. Also, policy BEDB. I was at the policy committee last night when we reviewed this policy, and additions and adjustments to the agenda of a regular meeting. Just take a look at that, and we will be following this policy for anything that is added to the agenda. And then just take a look at BHC for communication. I encourage you to read the second chapter in this book. I encourage you to read all of the policies that were given to us by Bruce Smith at our first meeting when he did the workshop. Those are very helpful.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from February 8, 2018.
Any questions, additions, deletions? All those in favor? Against? And abstentions? Thank you. And the superintendent will give us an update on the strategic plan.
So the event planning team is moving forward with contacting the people on their list to invite them to the Future Search event, which is Friday night, March 16th, and Saturday, March 17th. Board members, if you are planning to attend, and hopefully you will, can you just please let Donna know so she can get you on the list? Also, the members of the event planning team, Jeremy, you're over here, need to make sure that they add in. We have a Google Doc going with information on people who are being invited, and we just need to make sure that we get that added in. We have to send the confirmation letters next week, so it's moving forward, and we're continuing to make plans, and we will be sending out, I believe at the end of next week, publicity to the various papers, inviting, telling people about the event and inviting community members, and they will be asked to call Donna Foster to register for that, so we can get a count on how many people are coming. So we're moving forward.
Very good.
So what is our count right now?
I have no idea. I don't think many people have entered into the Google Doc yet. I know I haven't entered my stuff in, so.
I'm up there.
I have one.
Okay. Well, moving on to the budget workshop, I would refer you to the green paper that was in our packet several weeks ago about the procedure during this workshop. Again, there's a sign-up sheet for members of the public who wish to speak on the budget this evening. And staff members, administrators will be telling us about it. Board members will raise their hand to be recognized for the purpose of asking clarifying questions. Once all the board member questions are answered, then the public will be recognized, and then once they have spoken, then we will move on to any other discussion that we have. All right.
Okay, we received some good news today, actually, that we've been approved for 2 new buses next year, so that's very good news. We had one bus that was really, had a lot of miles on it, and we really need to replace it, and we have been waiting for that approval. So we have to put those costs in our expenditure budget for FY19, but that cost will be reimbursed the next year, in the next fiscal year. So that's very good news. I'm very happy about that. When Diane McGregor, our Director of Technology, gave her presentation last week, she was asked if we had a technology breach, and she answered no, but then she thought about it, and I have some words that she gave me to say about that. So at the beginning of the year, we did have an issue with a firewall configuration at our elementary schools that are managed through MSLN, and that we were able to resolve. The purchase of our own firewalls will give us greater control and access to better manage our firewalls and privatize our network IP addresses. And Diane did a survey. Can you just say a little bit about that survey? Someone asked, one of the board members asked if the elementary teachers felt that they needed that extra integration time. So Diane did do a survey.
Can I just get my numbers up before I didn't realize I was going to be talking about this.
Sorry.
So one of the things that, as I reflected on the questions that were asked last week, what was the difference between technology support and technology integration. And so we had some questions about, how long do teachers have to wait for something to get fixed? And really, the tech integrator is really about teaching and learning with technology. It's about going into the classroom and making sure the technology is being used so that we're improving teaching and learning. Both are very important. The technology has to work, but there also needs to be support for teachers as they use the technology. So always good to get, feedback from staff. So we sent out a quick, very, 3-question survey, and basically talked to the staff about this proposal. It was in last year too. I don't think it's a surprise to staff, but we put our rationale behind it, and we asked to check ideas of what you think would be important for this position, any suggestions, and then do you support the position with a comment? So we had 17 staff, respond, 10 middle school, 7 elementary school, 16 were in favor, and the big bonus for me is that they gave great suggestions, and we got a lot of feedback from people, and that's always good. The one person who disagreed with the position only thought if there's limited money, maybe there should be more RTI, and I think that's always a concern, is the competing resources. We don't have unlimited resources, and so, but that's what I did, so I could report back to you with some more information.
Thank you, Diane. A question, Alex asked a question last week about developing a middle school IA program that mirrors the IA program at the high school. So I asked Jeff Stockford, our IA teacher at the high school, to compile a list of minimal tools, equipment, and supplies that we would need to start up that program. So Jeff responded with a tools, equipment, and supplies list just to run the woodworking program. And the tools and equipment came to $41,825. The supplies needed would be about $8,500, and a teacher would cost, depending on their experience and what they chose for benefits, but we figure in about $55,000 for a salary. So that would need to be added to the budget, so it's about almost $100,000. Rick Hogan, principal of the middle school, and I had a talk the other day, and we came up with some things that we felt needed to be done before we implemented such a program, and it's what we usually do before we implement programs and in the planning stage. So we would do a survey of student interest, do some research of various middle school IA programs in Maine. We would have to develop a curriculum, and that curriculum would have to go before the curriculum committee of the board. There would need to be a study of how it would be scheduled in. So there are several steps that we would need to do before actually implementing this. So Rick and I talked, and I think based on our discussion, I would recommend to the board, if you're seriously considering this, that you appoint a subcommittee next year to research it, and then with the plan for implementation the following year. There's a lot of planning that goes on when you implement a new program. And then, of course, it would have to go before the board, because we have a policy BBAH, that that says that the board has to approve a new course of study, and I think that this would be considered to be a new course of study at the middle school. So there's quite a few steps that have to go through, but that's just my suggestion with some input and the money that we would need to do a startup program. So in your folder, you have, somebody asked a question last week about the ED 279. And so you have the document with the stripes on it. So every year I learn a little bit more about this. This is a very complicated funding formula. And so I'm just going to walk you through some of the pieces, and Bridget's going to jump in and help me. The first page really talks about the state has expected ratios that they will provide subsidy for. So they tell us, we think in any district in Maine, you should have, for this many students, you should have this many teachers. For this many students, you should have this many librarians, this many nurses. They don't take into consideration that there might be 4 elementary schools that are spread over a wide geographic area. It's just looking at number of students. And in this formula that was developed, how many teachers, guidance counselors, librarians, nurses, et cetera, should be provided for that number of students. So that really, and then they add in the computation of the benefits, and they really come up with a per pupil cost. And so for elementary, the per pupil cost would be, and that's the bottom in green. based on their formula, $6,465, and for secondary, 9 to 12 would be $6,907. So that's how they figure those numbers. And then on the next page, this is all about student subsidy. And they use regular ed students, they add in disadvantaged, an amount for disadvantaged students, for ELL students. There's an amount for assessing students, for technology, all of the things that they consider to be important or necessary for a program. And then the number that they came up with, based on all of those figures, is $8,744,629.39. And that continues down, looking at gifted and talented, if we had any special ed out-of-district allocations, and they come up with a figure. Then they look at our debt service, moving towards the bottom, and any leases that we might have. And so the state figures that to run our programs, it would cost, and if you look at the green stripe down at the bottom, $12,160,057.53. That doesn't include many things that we provide for our students, like co and extracurricular activities. They count our music teachers, our art teachers as classroom teachers. It looks at things a little bit differently than we do, but it's what they consider according to the state formula, funding formula, of what it would take to run our district. So then if you go on to the next page, they start thinking about, okay, how are we funding this? So the top part, they figure by enrollment. And so they look at student enrollment, and they divide it by the towns, and they come up with the percentage of students that each town has. And then they run it through, again, their formula. And this comes out with, if you figured it by enrollment, this is how much each town would pay. Then they look at the next set is valuation. And they look at each town, and again, they divide it up by valuations and multiply it by mill rates. And the mill rate is mandated by the state, and it's 8.51. And then they figure that number, what each town would have to pay by valuation. And they take the lesser amount, and that's what they use. And if you go down to the last one, they compare. I'm supposed to say compare, but really they subtract the lower one from the higher one, and that determines what the state will pay. So then if you go down to if you go on the next page, that difference was $3,591,893.08. So that's our allocation, our subsidy. And if so the state, or the state, the locals have to pay then $8,584,310.45, and that's again just for what the EPS formula says. That's not adding in co and extracurricular activities. That's not adding in any extra teachers or nurses or librarians lots of things that we might have. So that's just really the basic minimum of what the state says that would be our share of what we need to pay. And we'll be looking at the revenue sheet, and you will see that number, that $8 million number on the revenue sheet as we look at that. And then the last page is our schedule for receiving our subsidies for that year.
Can I ask a quick question? Just on the
Yes.
previous page, what is I see on line 8, regionalization and efficiency assistance.
Oh, yes.
What is that?
That is the money, I meant to, thank you. That is the money that we're working so hard. We did submit a regionalization plan, I think I talked about it last week, with RSU 2 and Winthrop, and actually I'm meeting with those superintendents and with Mike Cormier, who is a state facilitator. We're working tomorrow on the second part of our application, but we were credited with that amount because we submitted Part 1 and it was approved. So, so we're working really hard. So that's that extra $16,000. So,
you.
going to try to get it through. So we are working some more tomorrow on that. Mike is a great facilitator, so I think he'll really help us out. So also in your folder, you have a green sheet. And this sheet is always going to be green as we look at this, and this is our revenue sheet. Because we got our EPS numbers so early this year, we were able to get working on this earlier. So when we first started talking about budget, we said there's two parts to the budget: the expenditure, which we've been hearing the reports on for the last several weeks, and the revenue sheet. The revenues are what come into us. So this green part, the first side is what's coming in. So the $3,591,893 is that state money. That we just went through the formula, and this is the money. So this is the money we're receiving from the state. We're receiving $9,000. We are reimbursed for our teachers who have been nationally state board approved. So that's that funding. It goes to them, but it has to go through us. So tuition revenue, we do have some students who pay tuition. We have this number is up from last year because we are planning on more Fayette students for next year. Transportation revenue, we do have some field trips that are paid from outside sources, and in the summer, our buses run to do camps, and so we receive revenue from that. We have nothing down for main care reimbursement because we don't bill for main care. For those of you that aren't on the board, we several years ago now, we received a bill for $800,000. There was really some misunderstandings about main care reimbursement, and it was throughout Maine, and we were involved with many other districts in a lawsuit, and it's not worth it to us to participate in that anymore. So we don't count on any money from main care. The fees for service, $20,000 fees for services provided to other school districts with our personnel. We have an agreement with Fayette, and they pay us for Jeff Bridges, our food service person. They use him. Our technology, Diane goes over there sometimes, and Norm and Jeff. They provide services to them for technology. Ryan. I knew there was a third one. Ryan gives some time to them, not gives, but they pay us for Ryan. He's their special director as well, so he serves over there for a couple days a week, which works very nicely because we get a lot of their students. So when they come here, we have some good understanding of their needs. The gate receipts, and we talked about that earlier this year. Miscellaneous is reimbursement for foster children. The Waynetown office, we rent to them. It's in our Wayne school. E-rate reimbursement, insurance proceeds, miscellaneous things such as that. Balance forward, because we are frugal, Bridget and I. We are counting on a $500,000 balance forward for next year. We always try to have something to carry into the next year to offset. So Bridget's been doing some figuring and thinks we can count on that. Property tax revenue. So there's that $8,584,310 amount to be raised by the town, and that's the number that we saw. local-only debt, so that would be an additional local dollars. The local-only debt is the debt for, we have some construction projects that we are still paying on, middle school, high school renovations, and athletic fields from a while ago. So those are debts that we have been carrying and that we pay off. We pay some on every year. And then additional local dollars is the local funds that are needed to support the what we consider as a district to be necessary that's above and beyond the EPS formula. And then we have, if you add that together, you have your subtotal of the property tax revenue, which is $13,703,841. And so we have a total revenues of 18 million, over 18 million, 18.5 million. Then if you go on the back of that, and we try to always put these two documents together, and these change all the time as we get new information. I think they're pretty stable at this point, but they may change a bit. We have the local dollar calculation, and this provides some information about each town in our district, what they paid in the past several years, and increases. So we start with the property revenue services valuation, and we have a district amount, and then it's broken up by the four towns. And this is to support the budget as it stands now. So we're at a 7.42% increase. So this is to support that budget. If our expenditure budget is reduced, which I think it will probably have to be in order to pass, then these numbers will all change. So you see the 2017-18 required local contribution and the mill expectation. You see that the mill expectation was 8.19 in 2017-18. The local contribution increase or decrease, increase. Then figuring out the net additional local, and that is half based on valuation and half on enrollment, 50% on each. And then you see the expected for this year, for FY19. Then we have our adult ed, and you'll hear from Steve tonight, and that is up $2,000 for the local dollars, right. That isn't included in our expenditure budget. It's a separate silo. 2018-19 total local contribution by town, and you can see the increase by town, and the percent in 2017-18, and then the enrollment by town in 2017, October 1, 2017, which is our last enrollment count that we reported to the state. So these numbers, if we change anything in our expenditure budget, these numbers will change. So we'll keep an eye on those. Any questions? David? Oh, sorry. You, Paul?
David.
So, thank you. It's a related question, but possibly not appropriate for this point in this. The state contribution, whether it's of their estimate of what it should cost us or of what we decide it costs us, is there record of how much that has gone down or up over the past years and what this year's estimate is in comparison?
You got that earlier.
Probably, sorry.
Yeah, and you could see where the subsidy amount has gone down. It's also online on our website for the budget documents.
So this was handed
Looks
out
like
at the
this.
first meeting.
That's right, thank you. Okay, thank you.
I know you get so many papers that.
Yes, thank you.
So we're going to continue with our budget reports, and Al McGregor is going to report on the extra and co-curricular, accounts, and we have these to pass out.
Gary, you have a question?
So the revenue for the disabled children
Yes,
is only 105?
That's miscellaneous.
that's under miscellaneous.
That's for foster children that we might have in a district, for interest, rental income, E-rate, insurance. That's a combination of a lot of different things. It's not for special.
It's not
the
special ed. Gary, if you want to look for special ed, you go back to this. EPS, am I going to be able to find it? There's one line
On the maybe on the second
that
page?
talks about special ed. Oh, here it is. It's on page 3, number 2, special education EPS allocation, $1,766,401.35. That's the information that we get for special ed allocation.
So you have no idea what that's going to be every year?
No, it changes every year.
It doesn't go on student count?
Special ed students, but that changes as well, too. So, and there's a cap on that as well. So they will only allocate for a certain number of students. Is that right? Yes.
Gary, I'll just add that that's what I talked about last week. There's 6 spreadsheets behind that one number on that ED 279 that calculate the special ed subsidy. They take into consideration not only the number of students we have, what their needs are, what their IEP calls for, what they're identified as. So there's a lot of information that goes into that number.
Some students might need speech, some students might need a full-time nurse. It's depending on what the needs are.
Okay. We are ready for co and extracurricular.
Good evening.
Al.
Yep, good evening. We're winding down with our winter activities, and so I would just like to start with just a few of the highlights to date. This Saturday, the boys' basketball team's in the opening round of playoffs. They'll be traveling to Portland at the Portland Expo for a 10 a.m. game with Yarmouth. Unfortunately, it's Yarmouth. They seem to have our number year in and year out. The Alpine and Nordic teams will be traveling over break. They'll be heading up north for the state championships. We did just have our conference championship. We're in the KVAC. That was just completed at Black Mountain and Titcomb Mountain for skiing this last week. The boys Nordic and the girls Nordic teams, they won the overall, and then the Nordic and the girls Alpine teams, they won the combined KVAC championship. So we had a pretty successful event this past week. This fall, the girls cross-country team won the conference championship and the Southern Maine Regionals, as well as the sportsmanship band, which we have hanging in the gym now. Boys soccer, the board recognized they won the state championship in Class C, as well as the conference and the regional championships. And then with the high school musical this fall, it was very successful with the students performing The Addams Family. So that's just a few highlights to date, and now just to fill some of the board members who haven't been here before, the activities that we offer. At middle school, we currently have 19 activities that are all funded by the district. We have 2 non-athletic, which is the play and the math team. And then for the athletics, there are 17 teams that we have, mostly made up of 8th and 7th graders. If numbers do allow, we have 6th graders that can participate. Most schools, we play in the Capital Area League, most schools are made up of 8th grade, 7th grade students. We're one of the few that have the 6th graders as well, so if we can use them, we get them in. High school, we currently have 35 activities offered. We have 31 of the programs funded by the district. 2 are partially funded by the district, which is football and hockey. And then we have 4 parent-funded programs. We have 2 boys, varsity JV lacrosse, We have a girls JV lacrosse team, and then the freshman basketball team is funded by the parents as well. So at the high school, we have 5 non-athletic activities, and we have 31 athletic activities. So overall in the district, we have 54. We offer 54 activities between high school and middle school, with 50 of those being funded by the district. Participation numbers, we usually have a pretty good draw with the co- and extracurricular activities. This fall, we had 34% of the 8th graders involved with activities. 7th graders, we had 36%, and 6th graders was 13%. So most of the 6th graders were involved with cross-country, which you can pretty much have any number involved with that program. So we had a total of 27% of the middle school, or 81 students, participating this fall. This winter, we had 28 8th graders participating in events, 32 7th graders, and 17% 6th graders. So we had 25% this winter, with 75 students participating in all. At the high school level, seniors in the fall, there were 34%. Juniors, we had 44% of them participating. Sophomores, 42%, and freshmen, 35%, with 39% of the student population participating in activities. Plus, in the non-athletic events, which speech and debate, math team, and the musical, we had 74 students participate in those 3 activities. So there was 21% just from those 3 activities. This winter, seniors, we had 27%. Juniors, there were 28%. Sophomores, there were 37%. And we had 40% freshmen. So freshmen are getting involved when they come up to the high school level. There was 33% of the students were involved this winter with the athletics, and 118 students involved at all, involved total. So total for the fall and winter extracurricular, at the high school level, we had 404 participants with everything. Some of those are carryovers. There may be a kid that was involved on the soccer team that was also involved with the play. So that 404, a little deceiving, but there were, with all the programs that we did have offered, there were 404 kids participating in those. As far as my budget this year, my proposal is up 5.5%. Part of that is due to the stipend increase that was done through the negotiated agreement. And the second part of my increase was I set up a 5-year rotation, hoping to include uniforms in the budget. Right now, the Awesome Bears, our boosters, is doing a lot of funding for those. There's a lot of fundraising going on for uniforms. Middle school, you don't see as much funding. They're getting hand-me-downs from the high school, so you have some of these little tykes out there putting on high school kids' uniforms. So I've increased the line. I'm looking for, with a 5-year rotation with the uniforms, I'm looking at $6,800 in the high school line and $3,800 with the middle school line approximately. These uniforms does not include football, hockey, or lacrosse, the teams that we aren't funding. That's not included in there. And I spoke with Steve DeAngelis, and right now we don't have Alpine and Nordic involved in there too. Their uniforms last for quite some time, and right now they said that they're fine with what they have. So that's basically it, and I'll take some questions if anybody has any.
Are there any questions? Missy?
Thank you, Al. I was just curious if you have noticed this year an increase in participation since we dropped the activity fee.
I don't have the numbers with me. I wasn't ready to answer that tonight, but off the top of my head, we've pretty much stayed, we've maintained. There hasn't been an increase.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Al?
If you'd like, if the board would like those numbers, I can get those to you too.
That would be good.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
Because I was a supporter of the activity fee. I think it could help with your uniform issue.
Any other questions? Thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Moving on to operations and maintenance. Sean?
Sean Drinkwater. I believe you have some photos for us.
I do. I have a few. So good evening, everybody. I just want to take a minute and thank the board and Donna for giving me the opportunity to fill in as director, to have the director position. It's been hectic, it's been challenging, and it's been fun. So, and I do want to thank Bridget also for the direction that she sends me, because I do ask a lot of questions. And I'm sure she gets sick of me sometimes, but she's been very good. So, yeah, I'm waiting, yeah. So, like I said, you've got my list of everything that I've put down, and I have some pictures that I'd like to show you just on a few things. I couldn't take pictures of everything. So if we'll go ahead. This is down in Manchester. It's hard to see in the picture, but it's a sign. It's made out of plywood, and it's made out of the letters are stickers, and they're coming off. If you get up close to it, it doesn't look good at all. So that's one of the projects that I'd like to do, is replace the sign. This is in the tile in the stage office. As you can see, it's coming all up, so I'd like to put a new tile floor in. This is at Wayne. This is we have 5 windows that have not been replaced in Wayne. The rest of them have. So I'd like to replace the rest of these windows. If you can, it's hard to see in the pictures, but they're just single pane wooden windows that you can feel the cold blow right through them. This here, I did not put it in my budget. This is the boiler at Wayne, one of the boilers. If you see the black plate in the middle with the new bolts, on the left-hand side of it was the plate before we took it off. It had rusted through. That's a 1/2-inch plate. Siemens is the ones that was working on it. They couldn't buy that plate for that boiler anymore. So I just went and found a piece of 1/2-inch plate, drilled the holes, put it back on. We did have to double gasket because it has pitted so bad that it won't seat real good. So this is something that we have to look at, and I'm thinking that this might be a bond issue. That's why I didn't put it in the budget right now. But I just wanted to show you that it is getting bad. This is at Reed Field. This is one of the windows I would like to replace. It's a slider, and she cannot open it. It will not open. So that's one of the windows I want to replace. And this is at Reed Field. This is a sliding door, and you cannot have a sliding door as an egress. So my plan is to replace that sliding door with a regular door with a window on the side of it, so that we don't have to, so it fits in the same hole. So that's my plan for that. And in the middle school, you'll see in my thing I put in there for some valve replacement. This is the valves that I'm talking about. I'm not sure, and I haven't found out yet, but if the water system that we have a softener system now, but before that softener system came in, this is what the water was doing to the valves, and it's caught up to us. And they're starting to, I've replaced a couple this year already. So I just wanted to show you that that's what's happening to them valves. This here is in the high school. On the left is a new boot. On the right, you can kind of see it, it's kind of corroded, but it's a rubber boot in between that pump. We have 3 more of them, and they're really, really bad. They told me I should be getting on them now. They're very expensive, but when they take them apart, there's a pump underneath. It's hard to see, but there's a pump, and they rebuild that pump at the same time as they replace that boot, so then you don't have to take it back apart. But if that rubber boot blows, it will drain the whole boiler system, which the boiler will shut down because it has a low water shutoff, but it will keep adding water, and it will just run until somebody catches it. That really needs to be fixed. The lockers, which I think you guys saw in the tour, our lockers are terrible. I can't replace all of them in one year, but I'd like to be able to start doing some and do each year. And that's the sinks in the bio lab. There's 2 rooms, possibly 3 that should be fixed, but I thought maybe I could try to get 1 room each year and try to put new sinks in. This is an HVAC unit in one of the rooms. It's hard to see, you can't see it from there, but I have screws drilled through the whole front cover to make it so that it will quiet down. what it is, it has a motor in the center and 2 squirrel cages on the ends. They no longer make parts for these units, they're obsolete, so I can't get a new squirrel cage with the motor. In this classroom, this teacher's been very, very good, but it's so noisy and it disrupts her class. And the only way that we can do anything with it would be to update to the newer style HVAC unit, which we have in the new areas in this wing, in the school, but the old areas have that style. So I'd like to replace 2 this year, 2 next year, until I can get them replaced. This might be something that we will put in the bond too, I'm not sure, but I did put it in my budget. The rugs in the high school. I don't know if you guys noticed on the tour, you can see where they're bubbling up. We have a lot of areas that it's doing that. In the summer, like early spring, as it starts to get humid, or in the fall, when it's a little humid, they're really bad, really, really bad. It's a safety issue, and I'd like to replace a few of the rugs. I brought a rug guy in, thinking maybe we could just pull the rugs back up, lay them back down, but his words were that it stretches, you're never gonna get it laid flat, you gotta pull them off, redo the whole bottom, and start over. So I put that, you'll see that in there for the rugs. This here was just a picture. This is Mount Vernon. Not sure if you're really familiar with Mount Vernon. Every time we get a big snowstorm, it fills in, there's a little crevice in where it goes into the library, and you can't get to it. It would be very nice to have the tractor up there. We have a tractor with a bucket. We can't get it up there because we don't have a truck or anything. We do have a trailer, but we don't have a truck to haul it. It's too far to really run it on the road. It takes over an hour to go on the road by driving it. So I just wanted to show you that picture. This happens. And now we just got the thing with the Ed Ants that before we can have school open, we have to have every egress exit opened before we can have school. We were doing the main entrances, what we usually come in and out of, get those all open before school, and we thought we had 24 hours to open the rest of them, but we don't. We have to have every egress. And just this school and the middle school, we have 35 that we have to have opened before we can have school. So that was one of the things, I know you probably see that I've put in for a truck with a plow, and that's, if we had that plow in a truck, it goes a lot quicker. So, and that's that. So if there's any questions on anything?
So the road out here,
Yes. The road is very
I didn't
bad.
see that in this.
I was hoping for the bond. I was hoping to put that in the bond.
So, has the people been out here to assess any of this stuff?
The architects are coming February vacation. They're all coming February vacation, the whole crew. We're gonna go to every school during February vacation. They're gonna do it all in 1 week's time. They did ask for if they could stay long days, and I told them not a problem, we'll make it work, and we're gonna get it all done during February vacation. They will see the road, and of course, this time of year, the frost has made it a little worse than it is, but it is in bad shape, and they will see what it actually does with the frost, so it's actually a good thing.
Anyone else have a question?
I love your pictures. Good job.
Thank you.
Question.
Yep.
Did we add summer staff last year?
Yes, we had summer staff last year. We had 2 of them for 3 months, right around 3 months. I'm asking this year to have both of them again, but I'd like to have 1 more for 6 months.
Just expand one of them.
Yes, right.
Oh, okay.
Additional one.
Yeah, not an additional, sorry, yeah.
So this would expand one
One of
from
them
approximately 3 months to 6 months?
Yes,
For the mowing.
yeah, mowing, and you will see that I put in there for gardens this year. I know our gardens are terrible, and to do that, I kind of need some extra help for gardens, so. But even just with mowing, we could use the extra people.
Okay.
So the noise in those 2 rooms is caused by that refrigeration unit,
It's by the HVAC unit, the heater, yes,
the heater?
yeah. What it is it's got a motor in the middle, and then it's got two big scroll cages that hang off that motor, but there's no bearings out on the end to support it. And it has warped, gone out of roundness over the years, and it just sits there and vibrates and vibrates and vibrates, and you can't get the part. You can't even buy those parts anymore.
So what about the hot rooms that we saw in the high school that were so darn hot?
The hot rooms.
Down there near the art room, next to that.
Oh, yes, that was a Siemens issue. That's all taken care of.
That was taken.
Yes, that's all taken care of. And we had an issue up in the senior wing also where I think the young student had talked about it, the heater being noisy. That has been all taken care of.
Anyone else have questions?
Like the chainsaw, the sweeper, vacuums, floor machine, and all. Is any of this stuff in a rotation? Because last year we bought some equipment,
Yes.
and I'm just curious, and one of the things that, as a board, we wanted to see was a rotation of some of the equipment, just not, I guess that's just all I'm looking for is.
Yeah, like I said, the mule is getting old, and we use that mule for a lot of things. Al uses it for a lot of things for the fields. That is in rotation. The chainsaw, the lift, stuff like that, we do not have one here at all. I've been using my own, and that's why I put those in there. We do have some things that we have to saw. We have trees and stuff that come down and stuff like that. There are still a lot of things. Our big tractor's actually getting old. It's getting a lot of hours, but I mean, I didn't want to put everything in every year. Like I said, we'll do so much each year and just put it in a rotation.
Anyone else have questions? Bridget?
I just want to respond that some of the equipment that was built into the budget for this year, we did not buy due to the fact that we had to put in a diesel tank and put in ventilators that were not budgeted for. So some of the equipment from this year just did not get purchased because of that.
Any other questions?
So anything with an S you're going to do?
Yes. Yep.
And did you ask for these prices, or are these just,
No, I had people come here and
okay,
and give me estimates, oh yes. And a lot of those things, we will get, 2 or 3 estimates before I do them.
Adam?
I don't know if this is a facilities committee question or whether it just goes to Sean. Is there any way you can rank these as far as need? Going through your list is just give us a priority.
I can,
That
yes.
would be awesome.
Yep,
Thank
I
you.
can do that.
Anyone else? Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Sean. Transportation.
So you have the transportation budget in front of you, and as I said earlier, we just got approval for 2 buses. So we took that into consideration. We have $47,000 in there. We would buy them on a lease purchase, so we would be paying for 4 years. 4 years. This also includes an increase in salary and benefits, and that's really it. 2 buses are going off that will be paid for, and then we would have the new 2 buses that are coming on.
Yes, Gary?
so I was called in for a meeting on a bus. So we're talking about 2 plus that one that we,
We had one in there, and we got a new one this year. That was for this year.
so we got that,
We got that.
Well,
either you got it or you didn't get it.
okay, so originally for this year, we had put in for 2 buses, and we had only been approved for 1.
Right.
So we actually, before the budget was finalized, we took out the payment for the second one. Then, last fall, we discovered that we actually, in a second round, got approved for the second bus. So that's when we called the Transportation Committee together to see if they would approve us buying a second bus, even though we had taken the first year payment out of the budget. That one's on order right now. That's for this year.
Okay.
And then we've just been approved for 2 new ones for next year.
So when are we going to get these buses?
Those we'll get during next year. So once the budget is approved in June, we can place those orders. And so depending on whether they have it in stock, which isn't often, or whether we have to actually order it in, it can take 2 to 3 months sometimes to order in a bus. So we should have those probably no later than the fall.
So we talked about another thing in transportation, and that was undercoating some of these buses so they don't rust out as bad. I don't see any costs in here.
No, this is just this is the cost from O'Connor's on,
I understand
Yeah.
that, but what I don't see,
well, we wouldn't lease purchase that. We'd probably have that done.
well,
after-
somehow we need to put that into the budget, is what I'm saying to you.
Okay.
I think Sean had looked into that and decided that it wouldn't work.
Gary, I'll get you a price for that.
Okay.
Fluid fill.
And also, one of the new buses that we just got approved for is a smaller bus, and it has a lift on it for wheelchair, so.
Any other questions?
Good job.
All right. Adult ed. Steve Vos.
Steve Vos is our adult ed director.
Good evening, everyone. I guess I got it all right. My name is Steve Vos, Adult Ed Director, and as we have a lot of new faces here, I just kind of wanted to start with a general overview of my program. So I'm the director. I work about 32 hours a week. I also have 2 administrative support staff, Susan Simons and Nicole Cushing, who I believe are right here. Susan works 25 hours a week, and Nicole works 15. So there are 2 main components to the program, and I'm going to start with enrichment simply because that's where a lot of the funding that we have comes into our program that helps to support all of the things that we do. So an important component, obviously, of any adult ed and community education program is enrichment classes. These offerings are especially critical to those living in rural communities where the opportunity to access these services might be limited. The adult and community education programs at RSU 38 offer participants a chance to obtain valuable technical skills, complete required trainings, access health and fitness opportunities, and attend classes where lives are not only enriched by learning, but also by social interaction. Overall, adult and community education programs, like 38, offer all community members a chance to access a wide variety of classes and enrichment opportunities. So program participants continue to remain closely connected to their local school systems, even long after they no longer have school-age children. Yearly, approximately 900 people attend our enrichment classes. The other huge part of what we do is high-set diploma programs, and those really do change people's lives. We offer college transitions programs where students can come in and actually earn credits to be able to go on to college and get support. And currently, right now, we have 8 students in our high-set program, and I'm anticipating at least 6 of those will graduate by the end of the year, so that's phenomenal. Now, why is that so great? So adults with high school diplomas are more than twice as likely to live in poverty and 3 times more likely to be unemployed. So having a diploma is critically important. Local governments gain approximately $6,000 in tax revenue for every adult who earns a high school diploma. Income for Mainers aged 25 and older without a high school diploma averages about $15,000 a year, while those with a high school diploma average $25,000 a year. And 63% of all U.S. jobs require education beyond high school, and that number keeps increasing every single year. So adult and community education programs, like 38, have seen a steady increase in the number of participants in our educational, our vocational, and our enrichment programming over the last 2 years. With this growth comes a need to expand our oversight in these areas with additional office support time. I am proposing that my current secretarial position be increased by 5 hours from 15 to 20 hours per week. These additional hours will cost our program an additional $7,500 in the 2018-2015 fiscal year. With this extra time, however, we will be able to cover our continued growth in enrichment programming and educational services, continue to support the senior cafe, something that we have actually volunteered our time to do over the last 2 years, and provide support for our new summer CDL program, in which we are currently anticipating making around $20,000 in revenue. So to help defray potential costs associated with the additional administrative time, I'm requesting that the local share contribution be increased from $63,000, which I think it's been for the last 10 years, or maybe more, to $65,000, an increase of $2,000. Now, I understand I said before I'm hoping to increase costs by $7,500. I'm only asking for $2,000. That's correct. I think that I can actually go ahead and make up the remainder with a successful running of our summer CDL program. However, it's very nice to have options, and if I have that extra revenue coming in, then I can make sure that I can cover those costs. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Anyone? I think that's it. Thank you, Steve.
Awesome. Thank you.
Food service.
You have the food service budget. Last year, we found that we had a reduction in our free and reduced, number of free and reduced students. So we didn't get the subsidy expected, so the district had to add another $20,000 to support the food service program. So we have upped it $20,000 and proposed $100,000 in the budget for that. We also have been talking to Jeff Bridges about his equipment, and the equipment is getting very old, and we need to start to replace it. So we've put $5,000 in to begin a replacement program for the kitchen equipment.
Questions? Gary?
So these machines that keep making so much noise back here, you read those in this thing?
I don't know if they make quiet ones.
Oh, they do.
What is the price of lunches? I know it's different at the elementary and at the different school
Is Jeff here?
levels.
This is Jeff Bridges, our food service director.
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
What is the cost of reduced and full price lunches at high school, middle school, elementary?
Reduced is set by the state, it's 40 cents. For a paid student at the high school, it's $3, and at the elementary, it's $2.75.
Sean?
Again, this has a little bit to do with budget, but how many students, there's been a lot of conversation statewide, been involved in it, students who can't afford to pay, who may not qualify for free and reduced lunch. Do we see that happen in our district? And if a student can't afford to pay, how do we handle that?
We do have a low free reduced percentage, which has hurt us over the years. It continues to, we don't qualify for any grants whatsoever. You need to have at least 50% of the kids in the district qualify, so we don't even get a chance to see any of that. Normally what they look at is what I've, in the past, is if you have let's say a school with 300 kids, half of them are free and reduced, then you can break even. We don't really have any of that kind of thing in the district now. I think there's quite a few families on the borderline that don't qualify for the services, but we haven't heard from a lot. We reach out to a lot of those families and try to give them help and work with them when they fill out the application. So we give them every opportunity to try to do that. Other than that, I'm not sure.
I guess my question is I was involved in a broader conversation, I guess I'm curious of this district, is if a kid, I guess I'll just cut to the chase. If a kid's behind on their lunch count, there's been a lot of talk, there was a lot of folks who showed up in Augusta who said kids, they call it lunch shaming. They get, like, how do we handle that when that happens in this district?
We actually, I talked to Shanna Bellows a couple weeks ago. She visited the school. I know that's a big passion for her. One of the things that we do is we send out the message on Sunday night to tell them that they either owe money. Every Friday afternoon, we send home a note with the parents to say that they owe money. We work with the principals. Once the student starts owing money, to find out what's going on in the family, if we can help them, if divorce, sickness, whatever might be happening. And then we get to the point where we offer, once it gets to $30 or so, we start offering a bag lunch. And it's just a regular lunch like everybody else get. And we discreetly give them that lunch, so it looks like they brought it from home.
Thank you, appreciate that.
In the past, there has been difficulty in getting people to sign up for free or reduced lunches. Is that still a problem? And if so, what are you doing to reach out to families?
The state actually gives us a list of people that qualify for TANF or food
Right.
stamps benefits, so we have that list already. For the other families, again, the secretaries are really good in each district about knowing families, maybe what's going on and how we can help them or who needs help. I mean, a lot of times it's pretty obvious. We have the food pantry here and, that kind of alerts us to certain students. So again, there's a lot of different avenues that we go through.
Is it still more of a problem at the high school than at the elementary schools, or has it evened out?
Well, in the past, there was two different lines. If you went through hot lunch, you were probably identified as or you could go to a la carte. Now, we have very limited a la carte items, and everybody gets the same kind of lunch, and we have a computer system where they're not identified whatsoever. So there's really no problem. No one would know whether they have $100 in their account or zero.
Any other questions? David?
So if I'm getting it right, basically, our district is absorbing the cost of those students that can't afford it for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And I'm strongly approving of the bag lunch situation or whatever, but we're absorbing the cost of that.
Well, yeah, that's why we don't let it to get more than $30, because what happens when we start giving the bag lunches, we still get a certain amount of money from the state. It's only 30 cents, but it helps absorb that cost, and we use commodity products to help fund that also. So really the loss is probably only 30 or 40 cents per lunch that we have to absorb totally.
The price that we set, is that in line with the state right now? We don't need to increase or decrease?
We will probably have to increase this year. The state sets certain limits, but since we put money into the food service program, we're not necessarily obligated to raise that price every time that they ask us.
What is the state price? Is it what, $3 and $2.75?
Yes, right now, yes. That's the most you can charge for lunch without a waiver.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Health?
The health budget, there are two separate health budgets. One covers our nurses, our non-special education nurses, and their needs and supplies. And you do have that budget. Then the nursing salaries and benefits have gone up according to our negotiated agreement, so that it really is any increase in cost. The other part of our health services is the health center. And the health center has a separate budget, which is also included in your folder. And this is Becca Reynolds, and she is the director of our health center. And there's a lot going on with the health center. They've been working on trying to secure funding from the state. And Becca brought some friends with her to talk about that and their activities.
Thank you, and thank you all for your support. And thank you to our 3 students who have volunteered their time to come and speak with me tonight. Our health center is providing for the physical and mental health needs of our students every day. In 2017, our physician assistant had 249 visits with students. Our counselors had an average of 20 appointments per week, which is almost 520 visits last year. When I think about the many reasons why a student may see our physician assistant or one of our counselors, I think about lives that have been saved, illnesses that were treated, coping skills that were learned, support that was given. These visits represent the many trips to the doctor or therapist that students didn't need to leave school for. Students are getting the help they need just steps from their classroom. These are reasons why our health center is so wonderful. I am requesting $30,000 of district funds this year, which is the same amount of funding that I have requested in prior years. This $30,000 not only contributes to the general services that we offer, it does so much more. And I brought the students to help me talk a little bit more about that. We help to provide teachers with trainings on suicide prevention, child abuse reporting, ACEs and resilience, and self-care. We bring presenters to schools to talk with students about healthy relationships, consent, decision-making, and to talk to parents about mental health, substance misuse prevention, and internet safety. We work closely with the Student Health Advisory to engage the student body on various topics that the group agrees upon at the beginning of the year. One such project is a very exciting informational video. Grace Daypre is a co-chair of our Health Advisory, and she would like to share a piece of our video with you.
A student in distress? Katie, what's wrong? My throat hurts so much. I can barely talk. Katie, you need the health center!
You need expanded services.
Hi, what do you need today? I have a really bad sore throat. All right, let's check it out. Let's first take your temperature. Under your tongue. Oh, a little bit of a temperature today. Let's take a peek. Open up, stick your tongue out, and say, Wow. Looks like there's some redness and swelling. I think you should see Ainsley, our physician assistant. Do you have expanded services? I do. Oh, good, perfect. We can make you an appointment. Awesome, thank you. Hi, I'm Ellen Turgeon. I'm the school nurse here at Marina Cook High School. I see any student who needs to see me, whether it be for illnesses or mental health, if you have an injury, anything like that. And if it's something that I can't help you with, hopefully we can get you the services either through our counselors here at school or the athletic trainer or our physician assistant who's here 2 days a week and can see students with expanded services.
I'm with Marina Cook student Danny Taylor. Danny, can you tell me what expanded services are through the health center?
So what you can do is, if your family you can't afford to have food, you can go and ask for some food from in case you're hungry and you need food. You can also ask for other services like to brush your teeth and stuff, and you can get kind of.
Sophie, do you know what expanded services are?
I do not.
Hi, Kristen. What do you think expanded services are?
It's in the health center, and it's using the nurse practitioner and going if you have like sore throat or anything like that, birth control, whatever you need. And health center, like for nursing, counseling. Yes, really, yes. Up really big for me, say, good job, all right. Looks like you might need some antibiotics, so I'm going to write that prescription for you and send it into your pharmacy, okay? Thank you. You're welcome. Right. I'm a physician assistant. I work in the health center here at Marina Cook. Basically, I can do many different things for you that you would normally even get at your primary care doctor. So we can do like strep tests. We can treat people with antibiotics for different colds, or we can test for urinary tract infections. All of that pretty simply here. I also do quite a bit of family planning. So if it's STD testing or birth control, any concerns that you might have or any questions, I can certainly talk with you about that. We can also do some drug and alcohol counseling. I can help with smoking cessation. So there's a pretty wide range of services that I can offer here. And basically, expanded services is just an extension of, you can still have your primary care doctor that you see, but if mom or dad can't take you to an appointment, or if you don't want to leave school to go to an appointment, I can kind of fill in for more short-term concerns. Or if you don't have a primary care doctor yet, I can sort of do those services here, do physical exams here and things like that. So it's just sort of an extra service that our health center is lucky enough to offer.
Yay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that was great. So some of the stars of that program are right behind me. Laura Parent, for example. So that's just a little clip. Our full video is about 10 minutes long, and we're still sort of editing and piecing things together, but we thought you would like to be in on the preview party. So that was the first viewing that we've had. So that's pretty special. As Dr. Wolfram mentioned last week, LD 1710, an act to restore Maine's school-based health centers, has been passed by the Health and Human Services Committee. Although the bill has several steps to go before it becomes law, it has been said that the testimony that was provided at the hearing by students had a significant impact. I have two of the students' testimonies for you to listen to tonight. First, this is Laura Parent. She will read testimony that was written by one of her peers.
I am 19 years old. The health center has helped me a lot in the past 4 years. They helped me be able to start and continue counseling. I've learned coping skills, how to deal with my past, and working on my depression and anxiety. I see a doctor in the health center whenever I'm sick or for my medications. I've been able to get birth control and get antidepressants so I can really work on coping with my depression. If it wasn't for the health center, I don't know where I would be. They were there to help me when I became homeless, and they were able to help me in any way I've needed. The health center does a lot for the students and tries to help in any way possible. I'm so thankful for the health center. I want to go to college and be a pediatric ICU nurse, but if I hadn't had access to the health center, I could have ended my life or become pregnant.
And next we have Lily Welsh.
Hello, my name is Lily Welch, and I'm a junior here at Maranacook. From a young age, I've dealt with anxiety. At first, it didn't affect me too much. The first time I felt the grip of high anxiety was in the middle of freshman year. I was sitting in English class, and all of a sudden, I felt like I couldn't breathe, and my heart was racing very fast. That was when the nausea came on. I had never had an anxiety attack in my life, so I had no idea what was happening. After sitting in complete and utter agony for what felt like days, I got up and asked to go to the health center. At first, everyone believed that I was sick, so I was sent home. Every day when I entered school, I would get the same feelings as before, and every day I would make the trip to the health center because I felt like I could not sit in the classroom. Before school, I would beg my mom to let me stay home so I would not feel like I would throw up in my classes. These feelings had to start to affect my grades and my performance in sports. I was scared to ride the bus to sporting events and go out to eat. On one of my daily trips to the health center, the question was finally asked, could this be caused by anxiety? At first, this surprised me because I had always felt comfortable around my friends and in my classrooms. I was set up with a counselor in the health center, and that was when everything seemed to get better. I was able to talk about how I was feeling and what was going on inside my head. We need the options in the health center because many kids go through similar things I went through. I firmly believe without the help of the health center, I would not be on the sports teams, which I am a key part of. And like Al McGregor mentioned just yesterday, I'm co-captain of the Alpine ski team, and we won the KVAC championship for the girls and won the combined for the Nordic and the Alpine. Thank you.
Aren't they amazing? Thank you for that. Okay, additionally, I wanted to share just another little story. One of the freshmen on the health advisory took it upon himself to create a list of our local representatives for students to write letters, and he also started a petition of support for our health center. So this is a student that I would find somewhat unlikely to do something like this, and he has impressed me immensely. I actually refer to him as my legislative correspondent. And I asked him to come tonight to share, but he wasn't available. But he made up the list of local representatives, and on the back, some points that you might want to include in a letter if you were to write a letter of support for the health center, and also spearheaded a petition, which I have for you all to sign tonight if you'd like to. So today, the Student Health Advisory worked very busily during lunch, and they were able to get over 100 signatures of students, and that is in a half an hour, and 25 staff signatures on a separate document. So these kids are just absolutely amazing, and it really is one of the greatest joys of my job is to get to work with these kids. So I have that petition for you to sign and copies of folks if you'd like to get a hold of your legislatures and encourage them to vote in support of LD 1710. So these students' testimony, all of their hard work is something that we can all be very proud of. Thank you for your support and for keeping the health center's mission in mind when you think of our caring school community dedicated to excellence. Thank you.
Questions? Gary?
So I see on fiscal year 18 on this budget, the 36,000, you're not going to receive any?
That's the state fund that we lost back in June.
Okay.
So,
But you said it was reinstated?
well, it's gone through the first step. It passed in the very basic level of the Health and Human Services Committee. So it still has to travel through the Senate and the House and the Appropriations Committee and then through the governor. So it has some more steps before we get it back, but we're optimistic.
So this is what Sean should be working on?
So Sean is working every day, sending emails.
I just want to put the emphasis.
Any other questions? Alex?
So I know from experience, kids sometimes go to the health center to escape the classroom. And I'm just wondering, do you guys keep record to how many kids that come to the health center and actually get treated?
We do.
You
Very
do?
detailed records.
Okay.
Yep, the school nurse keeps records in Power School of every student that she sees every day. So that's one example, and then we have logs of the other students that are seen either by counselors or by the physician assistant. So yes, we do.
Do you guys turn away kids?
We do. We've developed ways of knowing who is a repeat offender, who's coming in just to kind of chill out, who maybe needs a little time to chill out. So we work with administration and with teachers to keep that kind of traffic to a minimum. And I think we do a pretty good job.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Gary?
So you asked for a larger space as you resolved that with?
Oh, yeah, I'm a dreamer. But I'm also a realist, so.
Were you able to work anything out?
No, not yet. You know, sort of in our limited discussions of the topic, we talked about the possibility of having a health suite that includes guidance because we work very closely with guidance. So in our dream world, that would be something that we would really love to see. So if that becomes a possibility, then we'll definitely try to get that. I think it would be wonderful for the students.
Any other questions? Sean?
I'm sure you are in communication, but have you encouraged other folks in your position at other schools? I know I've talked to the folks from Calais, Lewiston, and my other role.
Yep.
I actually broke the news to the lady at Calais. She was losing her funding because I had received a notice and she didn't know, and we're trying to gain support. So that was quite interesting because she didn't work in the summer months. So, but anyway, I just would encourage them to have their students.
Thank you. Yeah, we've all been in contact. We continue to be in contact.
So if it comes from many areas of the state, you probably have a lot more success.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Gary?
Should we be budgeting this 36,000 as missing? How's that look to you, Sean?
Yeah,
It,
I think that's what we're doing.
it came,
We have what we like to call the Health Center Reserve Fund, which we had over the years set aside in the event of a funding loss such as this. So we currently are tapping into that reserve with the hope that we will regain our funding and we won't have to utilize all of it. But we do have enough funding to keep us going through next year if we need to.
Okay.
Mhm.
Other questions? Thank you, Becca.
You're very welcome. Oh, can I send my petition around?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll send these pink papers too in case you want.
All right, professional development.
Nancy Harriman will present the next several pieces of the budget. She's our Director of Curriculum, Assessment, and Instruction.
Good evening. I don't have a flank of students to back me up or cute pictures, but we do a lot of really exciting collaborative professional development in our district. And as required by the state, we divide, thank you. Oh, I don't have to stand on my tiptoes. Thanks. Our budget is divided into half for K-8 and half for 9-12, because that's the way the state requires us to track it. But we've been doing a lot of vertical work, and we do a lot of 6 through 12, so we just split the cost for things. Overall, there's a small increase of 2.19% in this overall category, and it's attributable mainly to the negotiated increases in personnel costs. They're all small, but, the few dollars here and there add up. So we have certification committee stipends that are included in this category, mentors for new teachers, of whom we had quite a few this year, quick shop facilitator stipends, book study facilitator stipends. Those kinds of things are the kinds of personnel costs that are included here. One new product that we purchased this year that I want to mention is we purchased a site license to Zoom. Have you ever done a Zoom meeting? Yeah, they're pretty cool, and now we can originate them here in the district for professional development. Like about a week or so ago, I did a persuasive writing workshop for primary teachers after school, and we had teachers with 3 different schools, and in the middle of the workshop they got to meet in small groups, rooms that you can assign them to even though they were in different schools. The first grade teachers could meet together and the second grade teachers, and it has both audio and video capacity for transmission, and it runs on our network quite adequately. So we're really excited about this and think that it's going to help us really rethink professional development options for teachers in the summer and after school for next year, so we want to renew that. And it really was pretty reasonable for us to get 4 rooms we can originate from. It was about $300 for K-8 and $300 for 9-12, so. Are there any questions about professional development? If not, I will move on to my next one, which is district curriculum. And district curriculum, this is the area that's up the most. It's up about 6.8%. And that's partly because it includes salaries for curriculum coordination. It includes half of my salary for pre-K through 12 curriculum coordination. It includes half of the salary for our K-12 literacy coach. And it includes 100% of the salary for our K-12 mathematics coach. It also includes curriculum pay for teachers and staff for collaborative summer work on district curriculum. And we did cut quite a bit from professional resource books and supplies from this area this year, but we did add one other content area. For the last 2 years, we've been funded for, first for K-12 science to meet in the summer for $1,800 for teachers to meet K-12 to work on that. And last year we added social studies, and this year we're going to also be adding world language for 6 through 12. I met with them this morning, and we have some really pressing work to do, as world language is one of the areas of proficiency under guiding principles that our students will have to meet soon. So we have some we've been meeting all along, but we definitely have some curriculum planning and summer work to do.
Questions about curriculum?
Okay, I have one more. The last one is district assessment, and this is overall up 3.7%. It's mostly contracted costs, and again, the personnel negotiations. The other half of my salary is in this area, and we are required by the state to have a designated district assessment coordinator. So I'm the DAC, get to help coordinate all the state testing as well as the local assessments. It also includes our contracts for district assessments like the NUIA, which was chosen by the board as a tool for comparing achievement of our students to those throughout the country several years ago. And it includes the other kinds of assessment like the PSAT and the ACTFL world language testing that we're doing for proficiency at middle school and high school. And it also includes the contract for the jump rope for reporting proficiency to parents, that new tool.
Questions about assessment? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Systems administration.
Systems administration. This includes some contracted services, such as we had a contracted services for fact-finding this year, for the future search. Recently, we expanded our recruiting process, and we now have a subscription to SchoolSpring, and SchoolSpring advertises all over the country. So usually before we had, what was it called? Servingschools.com. That just goes in the state for recruiting. So we decided with difficulties recruiting teachers last year that it would be good to go nationwide. So we do have a subscription to SchoolSpring that Kate advertises all of our positions in. It includes salary and benefits as negotiated, our business office administration, fiscal services such as any bank charges that we might accrue. And so we do have an increase of 4.43%. Any questions on that?
Look at the first line, it's labeled school board.
School board.
283, I know darn well it doesn't add up to that.
No, including those contracted services that I was talking about. So any contracted services that we might need, legal.
Legal, audit, those types of things.
She wasn't talking about your stipend.
Oh, zero stipend almost.
And then the next one is the debt service budget, and there's quite a few documents that outline our debt payments, our debt service payments, the schedule that we're on for payments, how we're paying them off in different years, and this includes buses, any bonds that we might have, lease purchases, on the next one, debt and equipment lease purchases. There's a list of our lease purchases and debt and equipment.
We do
that we're
lo-
paying.
We do lose some
We lose some, yes.
next year.
Yep. Every year we pay off
Yeah.
some.
So
And
wait a minute, do we have any high coupon bonds that we have not refinanced? Have we done that? Anything above 6%?
All of our bonds are through the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, and we have 3 bonds. One is on the middle school, one is on the high school renovation, and one was on the additional athletic fields that we put in at the same time we built the middle school. Currently, the Maine Municipal Bond Bank refinances every time that the interest rates have dropped. The remainder, and it was true for this year also, but the middle school bond and the athletic field bonds, which were both taken out in the year 2000, are at 0% interest right now. We do not pay any interest on either of those bonds. The high school renovation was a bond that was taken out in 2002. We do still pay some interest on that, but the Maine Municipal Bond Bank is very aggressive in refinancing when they see that it will drop it.
Other questions? About debt service
lease purchase.
and lease purchase?
That's it.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda is board questions. Now that some of this has sunk in, maybe, do you have other questions that need to be answered? Adam?
Is the insurance numbers, are those set yet? So that's,
No, we still have 10%, and we did get our experience, which our increases are based on, and that looks good, but Bridget and I have been talking, we just don't feel comfortable at this point decreasing that, so we'll keep an eye on that.
We have heard from MEA, and they anticipate the end of March, beginning of April, we should have some numbers on that.
Alex?
Could you send me the information you got about the IA?
Oh. Any other questions? Did anyone sign up for citizen questions or comments? I don't see anyone here.
I don't see anybody here.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Was there any further, before we do that, is there any further budget discussion that we need? Sean?
Okay, I guess I could have asked this some questions, but I thought that was, so we keep hearing a lot, and I know obviously the salaries went up, serving on the negotiation committee. So if you take this total 18, the total increase, what is the total salary increase? Because that's kind of set in stone. I mean, how I look at it is if you want to leave things the way things currently are today.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess, what's the dollar amount for salaries?
Okay. I haven't actually printed that out, but I will have it for you for the next meeting.
Because that's the question I have, because that's set in stone, you can't. So if you know, out of that 7 point, I think, what did you say, 7%?
4.3.
Yeah, 7.4.
How much is that salaries, because that's set in stone? So I guess that's a good starting point to figure out where we're actually working with.
I guess that 8.39 just seems ridiculously high. And I don't even think I would support that if it was cut in half. It just seems like last year there were big projects that we were paying for. This year, those big projects don't seem to be there. And we seem to be going up just the same amount, so.
Yeah.
I know you asked me to get you the projects from last year. Just to let you know, this project list is bigger than last year's.
Not just maintenance, just everything.
Yeah. And the administrative team always works on this, and we will be looking at items and prioritizing. So that work is to be done. I agree. It's too high.
Any other comments about the budget as it stands now? Any concerns about the budget as it stands now? Okay, any questions that you want answered that have not been answered that need some researching for next time? Missy?
I just want to make sure that, just to recap, that Al will get us the figures from last year versus this year, or was it 2 years ago we implemented or took away the activity fee? And if that number has stayed pretty much status quo since we did. Thank you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor? Good night. Thank you for your...